These are the things that can go wrong that people don't tell you about. Learn from my mistakes. That's going to be the focus of this video. Have you ever wanted access to water on your off-grid property? Not necessarily even to drink, but just to water the dogs, take a shower, water the vegetable gardens, washing up, any myriad of uses that you can think of. Having access to water is a huge step for self-sufficiency. Well, today on the channel, we're going to be hand driving our own shallow well. So stay tuned and I'm going to show you how I did it. Here on the table are all of the components that we will need to get water from our off-grid property. What we're doing today is a process often called a sandpoint well or a shallow well. And shallow wells generally refer to a well that's under 25 feet in depth. The most important thing you need is the drive point. Now this drive point well actually has this cast spike on the bottom, and it's meant for driving through the ground. You're not going to get through rocks and you're not going to get through big roots with this, but in a sandy soil condition, this is exactly what it's made for. All it is simply a pipe with screen and holes that allow the water to come in and hopefully keep out the sediment. And we're just going to attach our first pipe right to the top, drive it in, next pipe, drive it in, next pipe, drive it in, till hopefully we hit water. In between each section of pipe, we're going to use a drive coupler. It actually says that right on the box, drive coupling. Today we're using 1 1/4 inch pipe and 1 1/4 inch couplings. According to the directions on the sandpoint, so for a well that's 25 feet or less, you can use 1 1/4 inch or 2-inch pipe. Today we're using 1 1/4 inch because I found that the parts were easier to get for 1 1/4 inch than they were for 2-inch, and they were less expensive. So the drive couplings are actually heavy duty and they're made to pound on. And today we're going to be pounding with a pipe pounder, with a fence post pounder, or with a maul, depending on which works best. So you can't use your typical cast iron pipe fittings. Cast iron is just going to fracture. So these are exactly what you need. Hopefully today we're going to use a fence post pounder and we're just going to hit the top of this drive coupling. And I plan that it's probably going to get smashed. So one of them is going to be the sacrificial lamb, but we're just going to move that from one section to the next. If the fence post pounder isn't doing it, if it's not heavy enough, I also have something called a drive cap. And the drive cap merely screws onto the next section of pipe and it allows you to strike this surface with a maul or sledgehammer or something to drive your pipe. So this is made to be hit repeatedly to drive the pipe. Towards the top of the pipe, we're going to put a ball valve in. And the purpose for the ball valve is that we don't lose our prime. Every time you operate the pitcher pump, the water comes up the water column and then eventually it falls back down. Well, using this ball valve will allow us to stop that water from falling down the water column, and it'll stay up above the ball valve into the pitcher pump body. Therefore, we shouldn't have to prime every time we go to use the pump. In between our sections of pipe, we're going to use a pipe thread compound. Now, I don't know if this is the best brand to use or not, but one of the reasons that I chose this one was it specifically said it was for this type of pipe and it was for drinking water. So I know that it's non-toxic and safe. I mean, granted, I don't want to be getting this inside the pipe, but if I do get a little bit in there, I at least know it's not going to be harmful to my health. Now, when we're talking driving a pipe, we need a specific type of pipe, and we're specifically talking about well drive pipe. Now, you can't use your typical cast iron or gas pipes. Well, number one, they're not made for drinking water, and number two, they just don't have the strength to repeatedly hold up to the pounding and the pressure that you're going to put this pipe through in order to draw up water from the depths of the earth. And the last item, a good old-fashioned pitcher pump. Well, this one here, I got at the same place that I got all of my supplies, Menards. Menards carries all of the pieces that you need to drive your own shallow sandpoint well. Let's take a look at this bad boy. If any of you remember the old farmhouses that used to have a hand pump in the kitchen, well, generally this hand pump went down to a cistern underneath the house and it drew up water for kitchen purposes. Well, they still make these pumps, hand pumps, and they're still used for shallow wells. So today, hopefully, by the end of the day, we're going to be pumping out nice, cold, free clean water from our own land. This is going to be a big move for the tiny cabin. I'm pretty excited for this project. It's been a long time coming, and it's going to be a huge improvement to meet my goals of having this tiny cabin property be more self-sufficient. Well, right off the bat, you probably have a couple of questions. The first one is probably, well, how do you know where to dig your well? Well, we'll get to that later. But the second question is, how much is this going to cost me? Well, I'm fairly confident that I can get down to water in 15 feet. Well, 20 feet if you count the drive point. But we always want the drive point to be at least a foot below the surface level of the water. So hopefully, within 15 feet, we can hit water. Well, it just so happens I still have my receipt from the last time I bought most of this stuff. Now, this project has been a long time coming, and it was actually July of 2022 that I bought the majority of the equipment for this project. So keep in mind, the initial prices are for July of 2022. Prices have probably gone up since then. But let's talk about the pipe. For 3 sections of pipe, it cost me $114. The pipe was $38 a section for each section of pipe. And I just looked at Menards yesterday when I got the final pieces, and I can tell you the pipe is still $38 for a 60-inch section. Now, my particular Menards, 60 inches, was the only size they had, so that's what I'm stuck with. The pitcher pump was $44. The well drive cap was $10. And I also got an extra repair kit, which is just the leathers that go inside the pump, just because it'd be good to have on hand for any future problems. So for the pitcher pump, the drive cap, the 3 pieces of pipe, and the sandpoint well, my total was $235, oh, plus $10 for the repair kit. So $225 for the pump, the drive cap, the well pieces, and the sandpoint well. Well, yesterday I went into Menards to pick up the final pieces, and I got this 4-inch nipple, which was just a couple, $3-4. I got my brass ball valve, which was $29.99, so $30 for this piece right here. And these drive couplers were $8.50 each. So $8.50 times 4 is around $32 plus tax for your drive couplers. So 32, 36, 66, and plus the pipe dope was about $4 or $5. So for the couplings and the brass valve and the pipe thread, we're talking about another $75. So total so far I have around $300, give or take, into this project. Now if I can get water on my own land for $300, that's definitely worth the shot. Although I'm optimistic, there's no guarantees that I'm going to hit water today. And that could be a problem. I might not be able to get the pipe back out of the ground, so I might have just thrown away $300. Hopefully not. But we're going to find out, so let's get cracking. So the number one question that you're probably asking yourself is, how do I know if this is going to work for me? Well, I don't know if it's going to work for you. It really depends on where you live, your type of ground, your water table, and a lot of different factors. So how do you determine if it is going to work for you? Well, in my particular situation, I'm fairly confident that I'm going to hit water. And the reason for that is, if I look around my property, to this direction over here, I have a wet meadow. And there's never standing water in it, except for in the spring when there's runoff. And after that, it's just a low area with some moisture-loving vegetation. When you watch my videos at night and you hear the frogs chirping, they're out there in that wet meadow. So that's one direction. And if I look the opposite direction, in the springtime where I maple syrup, that area holds a lot of spring runoff as well. And there's actually some low area over there that's full of sphagnum moss, and I can also tell by looking at the trees, by looking at the types of trees, that is a lower area with a higher groundwater. And of course, so we have moisture this way, and to this direction of the camera, this is where I always have that ponding water in the spring when there's snow, with the snow runoff. There's never any standing water there after runoff, but that is a low area that always seems like it's 3 wet years away from potentially turning into a pond area. So when I look at my property, I'm basically on a high point surrounded by low ground all around me. So I'm fairly confident that if I get down 15 feet, I should be able to hit water in my area. Now I know when I was building the outhouse that once I got through the first few feet of dirt, most of the rocks were gone. Well, the outhouse was only 4 feet deep, so I don't know if I'm gonna have trouble past 4 feet, but from what it appeared to be fairly sandy ground. So that is something that's very important for this process. Now this heavy duty drive point, it can go through some stuff. It'll maybe move some small rocks around. Maybe it'll even punch through some rocks like sandstone or limestone. I don't know. But one thing I do know is it's not made for going through heavy tree roots, and it's not made for penetrating rock. So if you live in an area that's extremely rocky, has high bedrock, or extremely rooty, this system might not work for you. Likewise, if your area is full of clay and it doesn't drain very well, this is made for a sandy environment. This might not work for you. What I would suggest is to talk to your neighbors. Go to your county extension and say, hey, where's the water table at in this area where my property lies? Go talk to your neighbors. See if they have wells. Most of your neighbors are probably going to have deep wells, but if there's any farming or cattle, they may have some hand-punched wells somewhere on their property to at least give you an idea if A, it's possible, and B, how much work is it going to be. The third thing you can do is call up your local well driller and just say, hey, I'm looking at punching my own sandpoint. I was wondering if you're familiar with my area and have any advice for me. And they may tell you, oh yeah, no problem, or they may tell you, forget it. The water table is 200 feet deep in your area. You're never going to hit it with a 25-foot sandpoint. So those are just some thoughts for you to consider on whether A, this is even going to work for you, and B, look at the vegetation. Is it vegetation that loves moisture, or vegetation that is more apt to an arid or dry environment? All right, enough yip yapping. Let's start digging. Before I even start digging, I'm going to inspect my pipe. And I just took the cap off of this one, and you can see all of those metal burrs. See those chunks of metal in there? Well, you do not want that in your drinking water. And there's kind of some crud on the pipe threads, probably some oil from the cutting process, and clearly there's some metal burrs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean my pipe. So when I take off the plastic caps, you can see there's a little bit of plastic residue from the caps. So I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to brush all that out. Then I'm going to take some soapy water with some Dawn dish soap that cuts oil and grease. And I'm going to wipe the threads, and I'm actually going to wash out the inside of the pipe. If there's any oil or grit inside, as you can see on my glove, I do not want that in my drinking water. I also don't want those threads full of any grit or anything that's going to interfere with a tight seal. All right, this is too hard to do one-handed, so I'll be right back. Last year I cut down a big tree here and I dug the stump out. Unfortunately, this is where I want the well to be, so I'm a little bit concerned that I'm going to end up hitting some roots. That's why I'm going to hand dig this, and I figure if I can get down a couple feet between the shovel and the post hole digger, then I should be all right, hopefully. You know, I had to stick my hand down in here because there's a big rock. But as I'm pulling out this sand, well, number one, it's beautiful sand for this well, but it's cold and moist. And it made me think, you know, one of the problems I run into up here is in the wintertime, if I leave the cabin and there's no heat in it, I have to be careful with canned food, especially home canned food, that it would freeze and pop the seal. So one of the things I've been thinking about is some sort of winter food preservation, like a root cellar or something like that. And I have an idea in mind for a root cellar that could double as a storm shelter. But that will be a very massive project, and I'm not sure how I would do that. But as I'm digging this hole, I thought, you know, why couldn't I just dig like an outhouse pit-sized hole, line it with wood planks like I did with the outhouse or the garden boxes, and then I could put coolers down in there, and the earth would be naturally colder. You know, and then I wouldn't have to have a great big walk-in root cellar. And I could put some sort of lid on it. I don't know if that would be good enough in the winter, because you'd have to keep unburying it and burying it. But in the summer, it may help keep things cool. Probably not refrigerator safe cool, but even If you could throw like your pop or something down there just to keep it cooler than the warm air temperature. I don't know. Might be worth doing some research on. Oh, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. This is why I wanted to hand dig first instead of trying to punch that well. Because if I got that well pounded in 5 feet and hit a layer of rock, couldn't go any deeper, might not be able to get that sand point out. And I'm out the money right off the bat. Alright, let's see if I can get that. Let's see if I can get that out of there. Yeah. Sand point would not have gone through that. Oh, and I just laid down on something. Oh, kind of crushed it. Ugh. Ouch. You guys know what I'm talking about. We've got as deep as we can get with the post hole driver. So we put our sacrificial coupling on here. And I'm just to the edge of a rock, but I can't get it out. So I'm hoping this will be all right. I went to add another pipe, and in order to do that I have to take my drive coupler off. And I found out I can't get it off. So I think I was supposed to put pipe dope around this one as well, so it would release the seal. But I didn't. So now my dilemma is I have to figure out a way to pull this pipe and get this off, or switch this pipe out. Or I hope that it's got an airtight, pressure tight seal without any pipe dope, and just keep going. The problem is if I keep going and punch in 10 more feet of pipe and I have air, the seal gives, the well is useless, and I not only have a lot of work into it, but I've got all my supplies into it, and pulling a 20-foot well is going to be a lot harder than pulling 100 inches of well. And unfortunately I don't have my good lift jack. Otherwise I could stick a chain on this and pull it out like a fence puller. So I'm gonna have to do some thinking on this. It's probably close to 3 o'clock. I figured I should probably eat some lunch. Oh, I'm just frustrated. Nothing ever goes as planned. You know, I really didn't think I needed pipe dope on the drive coupler attachment, but clearly you do. So I just wasted a drive into town. Luckily I was able to get a new coupler a new sandpoint, and a section of pipe. They only had a 36-inch, which did not say well drive pipe on it. And I questioned the guy at the store, and he said, we have sold this exact same pipe for drilling hand driving wells for 30 years. He said, I don't know if it's just a manufacturer thing that it doesn't say well drive. I don't know. We're going to give it a shot though. I'll use this as my last piece. So if something goes wrong, at least maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll hit water before I need it. So now we have to start all over. Have to dig a new hole. So this is now my third hole. The first hole, I hit some big rocks down below and I couldn't get around them. So I moved over a couple feet. That's the one where I lost my sand point. So now we're going for hole number 3. I think now we're $375 into this and we are starting from scratch. It's going to be worth it when it's done though, if we can do it. If I'm not pumping water by the time I go to bed tonight, then there's no hope. But we're going to make this happen. We're going to make it happen. I feel like I'm a little bit deeper this time, but I had some rocks towards the end that I had to get out. So I've been sitting on my butt trying to get the last little bit of rock out of here. And I'm in kind of a, I feel like there's a little bit of clay in here now. Shoot, I almost feel like I hit another rock. Oh, please don't be a rock. Please don't be a rock. I can't get them out. They're getting too deep. Oh, there's a rock right in the center. Doggone it. Seriously? Stand by. We are about just over 4.5 feet deep. And that's about as deep as I can get with the postal digger. Okay. Hopefully I learned my lesson. New sand point. This time I'm going to use the drive cap instead of the coupler and see if I can get that off. All right, so in typical Terry building fashion, things are not going swell. This is my third hole. The sand point is still stuck in the bottom of hole number 2 after I could not get the coupler off of the pipe. So I got a new sand point and another section of pipe. So I decided I would put the pipe dope around the threads and I would try the drive cap, as you saw, with the sledge. However, what that did is it ended up twisting the threads on the pipe. And now that I put this other pipe on, there's some movement in the connection of the two pipes, and I'm concerned about that. Because if you have air or loss of pressure, your well will fail. So there's that. So as I'm trying to tighten this up as much as I can, I drop the wrench down the hole. Can you see the wrench down there? Yeah. Yeah. So, how are we going to get that out? The post hole digger can't get spread wide enough to grab a hold of it. So luckily on that wrench there's a loop on the end of the handle. I'm going to try to get a piece of wire and hook the loop and see if that works. We all know this isn't going to work. You know it and I know it. But we have to at least try, right? Oh, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. It actually worked. All right. Well, we're not out of the woods yet because I'm still pretty concerned about this connection. But actually, I just tightened it up, and you know what? I don't feel what I felt before, so maybe we're gonna be okay. But you know what? There comes a point in a project when you reach your frustration level, and it's probably better to just walk away for a little bit and clear your head so you're not working angry and out of emotion. So I think what I'm gonna do is, I'm already disgusting, I think I'm gonna go for a little run, work off some of this aggression. So I will catch you guys in a little bit. I think the tripod would have worked if I would have had if I would have had a well driver instead of a fence post driver. But by hand, for every 25 slams I do, I go about an inch. On the tripod, every 25 was maybe a quarter inch. So clearly this isn't going to work with what I'm using, but I'm almost close enough to use the sledgehammer. Maybe I'll try that for a while just to mix things up. Whew. Back at it. And here is the dilemma of the day. This drive coupler, which is supposed to be able to withstand repeated strikes to drive the pipe, is now on here so tight that I can't get it off. So I don't know if it stripped the screws or jumped a thread or what. The problem is, because I've been banging on this, the top half is wrecked and I can't put another pipe in. Normally I would take this coupler off, put a fresh coupler on, put a fresh pipe on. The problem is I can't get this off, nor can I fit a new pipe into the top. I can't even use it as it is because the top is so deformed that I can't get a pipe in it. So I don't know what to do. We are 5 feet away from being maxed out on this well. And so I need to go to town. Unfortunately, there's no 5-foot pipes in town. And I'm not even sure there's going to be a 3 or a 4 foot left. Yesterday I had to do some scavenging to find one. But there's no sense going all the way to town and even trying to find one if I can't get this off, because there's no way we can attach it. So, back to the drawing board. Yeah, see, whenever I try to move that, I move the entire well pipe and the connection underneath it. So I've even tried using pipes for leverage. That hasn't worked beautifully. But what if I used the driver as a brace for my feet? Oh boy, that could have been bad again. See, I'm just moving the whole frickin' pipe. That is not coming out. That is not coming out. I don't know what to do, guys. I don't know what to do. Maybe I can force this nipple that I was going to use between the cutout between the ball valve and the main well pipe. Maybe I can force that on enough to make a secure fit. Which I highly doubt, but I don't really know what else to do at this point, to be honest. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Well, maybe it will. Ugh. Ugh. We got about a 1/4 inch that we need to go. The question will be, will that provide an airtight seal? I mean, I don't know what else to do at this point. I tried getting this off for an hour yesterday. I tried getting this off for quite a while yesterday, and there's just no way it's coming off. Ugh. The problem is, I have nothing to lose at this point. Like, I'm within 5 feet of maxing out. I haven't hit water. So at this point, I'm starting to feel like the well is going to be a failure. I've got that pipe about halfway in. And as tight as it is, I bet it doesn't back out either. I mean, it's pretty solid in there. This might work. It's not ideal, but again, we're at the stage where we're 98% to failure already. So at this point, anything is worth trying. I guess we go to town, get another coupler, one more section of pipe, another coupler, another nippler, another nipple, and we drive it, and it either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, we're out a few $100 and 2.5 days of work. I'm not in a good mood right now. I'm not in a good place right now. I'm pretty frustrated. Well, if we're gonna go to town, I might as well stop at the fitness center, shower up, clean up. You know, just for fun though, this thing's been sitting all night. Let's just see if there's any water that's accumulated. So right now we are 21 inch, well, the well, we're 17 inches from above ground. So we'll take off 1.5 feet and we have 17 feet of pipe plus 36 inches of sandpoint, so we're at 20 feet of pipe minus 17, so 18.5 feet. That gives us 7 feet to max out, and that's from the ground. I mean, if you want your pump up here, you're gonna lose 3 feet. So basically I got 4 feet to play with. I checked this last night and there wasn't any water, so I know there's not going to be. Sounds pretty dry. 245.5 inches to the top. That is just over 20 feet. crazy how cold this tape measure gets, how cold it is down there. That's what we have in the bottom of the hole. Just a hint of moisture on the edges of the tape. It looks like it's clay still, silt. I mean, that's just a touch, not even. So will we hit it in 4 or 5 more feet? That's the question. But we gotta try, we're this far, right? By golly, we may have got this after all. Using the, what condition are the threads going to be, and the well pipe is going to be the issue. Wow, I can't believe that came off. I tried that thing so much for so long last night. I may have wished I left that on, I'm afraid. Okay, well, the threads on the well pipe look okay, as far as I can tell. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so I just got back from town and I got 2 more couplers and a 5-foot section of well pipe. So this was going to be a quick one-day afternoon project on how to install a sandpoint shallow well by hand driving. This video over the course of 3 days has now turned into, on day 1 I was 100% certain that I would hit water within 10, maybe 15 feet. Day 2, I was 75% certain I'd hit it between 15 and 20. Well, on day 3, I'm down 20 feet. This is my last section of pipe. It's make or break at this point. If I don't hit water with this last pipe, I'm going to be more than 25 feet and I will not be able to physically, the pump will not be able to physically draw water up if indeed I even hit water. So far we are about 18 feet in and we don't have a sign of water other than just a teeny speck in the clay. So one thing that I've learned is, and this is this coupling was a drive coupling that I was using, that it's trashed, the threads are trashed. So one thing I've learned is it's really hard to get the pipe threaded all the way down to the end of the threads. Most of mine have been, a couple threads left. The problem with that is when you're banging on the coupling over and over and over and over, if it's not all the way down, it's gonna deform the threads of your well pipe. So what you need to do is you need this coupling to be all the way down to the bottom of the threads so that the top well pipe rests on top of the bottom well pipe so that they come together. So when you're driving, you're actually driving the top of the well pipe into the bottom of the well pipe, if that makes sense. If you have a space between your 2 drive pipes where it's just threads, there's movement there to deform and distort the threads, and that's, I think, why I'm having trouble getting these couplers on and off. Like I said, the problem is it's darn near impossible to get these couplers threaded all the way to the end. But I think that's one of the major reasons that I've had 2 failures with the couplers and my well pipe. All right, let's get after it. It's make it or break it time, do or die. This is the last time. If this pipe doesn't hit water, the next video will be how to remove a shallow well from the ground. I have no idea how that's going to go. I hear you can do it with a high lift jack, which I have. I don't have a chain though, I have to get a chain. Oh, this is supposed to be easy. All right. Last chance. Last chance. Let's get this new pipe doped and get her screwed on. Well, that's all she's gonna go. That's all she's gonna go. The other thing to note too is after about every 100 slams, go back and make sure your pipe is tight, because it loosens up during the process for some reason. So you have to keep going back and just touching up on that tension. Make sure it's tight. All right, well, we probably only got another 2 feet before this thing is gonna be about done or useful. I don't want my hand pump to be down here. It'd be nice to be up here somewhere. Maybe 2.5 feet, but let's just do a water check. Our first attempt at a shallow well is a big fail. We are down 25 feet, including the sandpoint. So I was hoping to hit water with the sandpoint and then I would still be good, but yeah, I got about 1.5 feet left above ground and we haven't hit water yet. And with the sandpoint, you'd want it like 1 foot below the water line. So we're gonna have to try to pull this, but I don't have the equipment today to do it, so that's gonna have to wait. Big fail. A lot of work for nothing. A lot of money for nothing. Hopefully I can salvage some of those pipes, but I'm not convinced the threads are still going to have the integrity. Anyway, the old RD has been hanging out patiently for the last 3 days while I've been working on this. And so I am going to take him for a little hike in the woods to give him some exercise. He should like that. And that way, maybe I can work off some of my frustration. Is what it is. You gotta try. What do they say? 100% of the shots not taken are a miss. So you gotta take a shot in order to hit a goal once in a while. This time was a miss. I think we're gonna try a little water dowsing when we get back. I've done it before and I got some hits, but they were within 100 feet of the outhouse, so I discounted them as a possibility, but maybe when I get back, we'll have to take another look at that. Well, everyone, I think I'm going to end the video here. It's been an interesting week with the well project, and I'm not really sure where I'm going to go from here. As far as, do I try a different spot, or do I just pull it and be done, or what? But I guess my plan at this point is to try to pull the well out of the ground and see if I'm successful in that. And if I am, then I would be apt to try somewhere else. Anyway, frustration. But I did learn a lot along the way, and hopefully you learned something as well. So good night all. We'll see you in the morning. Oh my gosh, there's water in the pipe. There's water in the hole. Now how does that work? How does that work? Just groundwater. It rained all night last night. I don't know if you can see that or not. Of course I dropped the pipe cap in there, but oh well, I can get another one. I can just put a drive cap on there. Just for fun, I might stick a rope down the pipe just to see if any of it filled. Like I said, I checked it yesterday and it was dry as a bone, so I'm not expecting it. The problem is I've got sand, and then below that I've got clay. And I think what happens is when it rains, the water seeps through the sand and it sits on that clay level, and it can't get below the clay level because it doesn't drain very well. Well, the pipe is below the clay level, but not into the water-bearing sand. So you have sand, clay, and water-bearing sand. Well, obviously it's further down the line than my pipe can reach in 25 feet. But just for fun, we're going to sink another rope down just to see. Now I really hope I don't hit water, because that's going to make me really wonder if I should try to keep this. Dry as a bone. Just a little smidge of mud on the very bottom, but I've had that for the last 5 feet and it doesn't fill up with water. So what happened is I'm pretty sure that rainwater from last night is just setting on the clay surface, and it just takes a long time to soak through that clay.